Okay, I think we're recording.
No,
So,
oh yeah,
yes, we are. We are.
Yay!
Hi. We're not live today because we didn't want to mess with that this morning. We had all we could do to get this microphone and us set up in here. Meredith's here visiting.
Hello.
I'm Mary Lou. This is my cohort, Meredith. And we collaborated on a book. It's called The Book of Nakala. Show them the book, honey.
This is the new revised version.
Yeah, and we're so happy to have this
of
out.
the Book of Nakala. It looks like it's backwards. I don't know if you
Everything's
guys see it.
backwards, so I don't know
Yeah.
why that's happening.
But
It's the Book of Nakala, trust
and
us.
look how
Yeah, this has got a lot more pages because it's not large print, but it's extremely easy to read compared to the other one. There were so many font issues and style issues on the other one. This one is just beautiful. So this will be available on Shelves for Shalom
very soon.
any minute.
Yeah.
Any minute. So when you order this, right now they're stopping the old one and they're starting the new one, and it's right in the middle. So you might possibly get a message saying it's unavailable at this moment, but I don't think so. I think she's really working on it.
She's working on getting it up. You will notice a cost difference, but it is well worth.
Yeah, we do not know at this moment what the cost difference is, but it was a matter of, you're reading along and you're enjoying your fiction, okay? And then all of a sudden, boom, you can't read it because of the font. Okay. So something had to be done. And I just think this one is just much nicer.
Yeah.
Now, we made a live recording a couple weeks ago, and yours truly threw it away by accident. So we've had one practice session at this. So what we're going to do is we're going to have something called characters on here. Yeah. And this will be like a little series. I don't know if it's going to be all in a row or not. But the first character that we're going to do, first of all, Abby is the main character.
Yes.
And she has two friends, Anna and Sarah. And this is Anna.
Mm-hmm.
The background on Anna is that she lived through the crucifixion. She was old enough to really understand what was going on. And she lived through the tribulation and into the millennial reign, and she did not. She made the decision, and she'd had a lot of losses. She lost her husband and her children, and she just kind of decided that she did not want to drink the living water and extend her life. So she opted to not drink the living water. But then two saints
That she say and she suspected that they were Abigail's parents.
They were Abigail's parents. She suspected that. So anyway, they came up and asked her if she'd stick around long enough to do a project for them. And the project was it Cana, which really is Cana, okay? If she would stick around to get that library set up. So she spent a couple hundred years drinking the living water and getting that library set up. And when that project was done and it was running well, she said, okay, I'm done. I'm going to stop drinking the living water. And right about that time, she ran into her cousin, Abigail, in Cana on the bridge. And they looked at each other and went, oh my gosh, because they didn't know if the other one was dead. They didn't know what happened to their cousin. So anyway, they got reacquainted, and Anna was invited out to Willow Winds, which is where Abigail and the family lives. And she came out there and during the Jubilee Passover, and they asked her to speak. And so Meredith's going to read you some of her story that she told during this time when she was speaking.
Yeah, we thought this would be fun for you guys to be the same as the audience in the book, listening to Anna's testimony and story. So that's the part you guys play, is being the audience up in the upper room of their celebration. And so I'm going to start here with Anna is at the wherever she is in front of everybody. I don't know if they don't have podiums back then, but she's speaking in front of everybody. So we're going to start with her. She says, "Good evening, everyone. Before I start, I want you all to take note of the difference between a legend and a first-hand account. This is the latter, and this is my story. I was 13 and lived in Jerusalem with my parents, who had fallen away from the old religion of Abraham and began worshiping at the huge pagan temple nearest our house. I never went with them, and they did not force me to. I read Torah daily. When Jesus the Nazarene was welcomed with palm fronds strewn before his donkey, the three of us were there. I saw him, not a cubit away from me, and our eyes met, and I knew he was sent by the Most High God. I did not believe I could ever be good enough to follow him. My parents, on the other hand, took an instant dislike to him and told me he was a pretender. He could not be Abraham's son, and he disregarded the law and healed the sick on the Sabbath. He was causing contention all through Rome, and especially in the temple with the Sanhedrin. I was surprised they let him preach there. Anna captivated all in attendance. With her engaging storytelling, all eyes were fixed on her, excited to hear her version of the story they knew so well. After many miracles, I just knew there would be trouble ahead, and so did my parents. They decided to send me to the country, to my grandfather's house, as soon as they could make arrangements. I was excited at this because I wanted to see my grandfather and cousin Abigail. My father was Abigail's great uncle. Anyway, with arrangements made, I was to leave within a fortnight. At that time, Jerusalem filled with people coming in from the feast of Passover, and my parents hosted relatives who would take me back with them to the country. Since the streets teemed with not just pilgrims, but those who wanted to profit from the crowds, I was not allowed out of the house. I wanted to go with my cousins to the ceremonies at the temple, but had to stay home with dire warnings of child thieves, pickpockets, and highwaymen who might rape me. My parents stayed home with me. Rumors spread through the neighborhood that the Nazarene had been beaten and sentenced to hang with other criminals on crosses. Even at that age, I realized that the crucifixion was a barbaric Roman practice. I did not understand how breaking the Sabbath could bring down the wrath of secular Rome so violently as to cause this execution.
Hey, how old was she?
13.
Okay. So her parents kind of locked her in the house because they were worried. And
Yes.
she really was kind of rebellious. So she
Mhm.
probably would not have stayed there if they would have left her alone. But so they kind of were babysitting her because there was a lot going on in the streets
Yeah.
because of the Passover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were
It
worried
was a
for her
Jubilee
safety.
Passover too. So that made it even more exciting.
Yep.
Okay,
So,
now what
indeed.
happens next?
So, we're going to go to the crucifixion of Christ.
Okay.
While Christ was carrying his own instrument of torture to his own very public execution, it seemed he walked along the same path as he had the week before, when people shouted, "Alleluia," in his wake. None of this made sense to me. Neighbors who witnessed parts of this were opening their windows and informing anyone who would listen that transpired practically in real time. Of course, we had no way to verify any of this. I am sure that my parents would have gone out if it were not for me. They did not trust me to remain in the house. After several hours, it got very, very dark. My father said it was an eclipse. Then everything began to violently shake. My mother ran from room to room between tremors, crying and lamenting, and trying to rescue family heirlooms. Buildings collapsed all around us when my father finally pushed us ahead of him out into the street. I saw a corner from the top of our building drop and split my father's head wide open, spilling his brains onto the pavement. My mother was still screaming as another piece smashed into her face, abruptly silencing her. In the audience, Clara stood with her hand on her daughter's Halima's shoulder and
Okay,
guided her out of
so
the
what's
wall.
happening now is one of the mothers there is going, oh my goodness sakes, this is a little bit too violent
Graphic.
for my child. So she's taking her out. So let's
Yes,
go back to where Anna is speaking again.
yes. She says, "Please forgive my insensitivity. From here on out, I will keep in mind some of my story is not suitable for young children." To continue at that point, I opened my mouth to scream, but nothing came out. I used my breath instead to blindly run. Anna's gaze found a place to the left on the beam ceiling, and she fixed on that as she recalled. I frantically tried to imagine a place close by without tall, falling buildings. The necropolis. I kept stumbling over debris in the street and sprained my ankle badly, but despite the pain, I knew I could not stop. Her attention fell back to the first row and anchored upon Justice's compassionate eyes. That is how I came to be sobbing on a stranger's grave with Quintus sat down next to me. A hazy light had returned for a time, and I could hear screaming and weeping in the distance. But my pain kept me helplessly affixed atop that stone. Where would I go anyway? My home was a pile of rubble. By now, I had come to notice my arms. One was totally numb, but the other was ablaze with searing pain. The pair were grotesquely swollen. The blood from my left leg, that had seeped through my gown, was drying. Every small movement of my dress rippled upon the wound. Soon I began to notice shadows and apparitions moving through the graveyard. I had never felt such pain and believed this to be the imaginings of some kind of madness. However, the big, blond centurion, who brazenly sat next to me, claimed to see the same thing. When the cement lid of the sarcophagus beneath us moved, he briskly jumped, slid his hands under me, and stood with me in his arms.
Okay, so she wanted to go somewhere where the buildings wouldn't fall on her,
Yeah.
and all she could think about was a cemetery. There was no tall buildings there.
Nope.
So she
Just
ran over
gravestones.
there, and she's sitting on basically the top of a grave. I mean, anybody that's been down south know how they make graves on there. They have like a cement box, and the body goes in there, and then they have a cement lid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and now not everybody was buried that way, but some of them were, and she was sitting on top of that,
Yes.
and this guy came and just sat
That
right next to her. Well, she was in no condition to flirt because she was absolutely. I'm sure she was in shock
Devastated.
because she just seen her parents get their brains bashed in,
Yes.
you know.
So. Quintus had compassion for her. He saw her, and I think he was just there for her.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to continue with the story.
It seemed the ground had quit shaking, so he strode out of the cemetery and to the nearby site of his barracks, which was his home when assigned in the city. He carefully placed me on his cot and said, "Stay here. I will be back soon, soon." As if I could move. I could hear others moaning, so I knew I was not the only injured in the place. Anna paused and took a sip of water from a cup in front of her. She licked her dry lips and continued. A doctor and his assistants appeared. They examined and treated people. When he got to me, he bandaged me and told Quintus that I suffered no broken bones and would mend in a few weeks. In the meantime, I needed to be cared for, as I had only one functioning limb. After questioning me about my parents, he frowned and told Quintus to carry me out of the city's rubble to the outskirts of town, where volunteers were taking in and caring for the wounded. Thus began my new life as a wandering and penniless orphan. And this is where we have a break in the book.
So there she is. She's
Mhm.
that would be a horrible thing to live through, but
Yes.
there She did, and actually Abigail, which they didn't know where the other one was at this point in time, was also living through it. So
Yeah.
in
Yes.
her own way.
And there's a part in the book about
Yeah,
Abigail's experience, but we'll
exactly.
focus on Anna today. This break in the book, you'll have to read it, is the interaction. They take a pause and everybody gets refreshments, and Anna
What
goes
chapter are we in right now? Do you know?
This is in chapter 20.
Okay, chapter
Mhm.
20. So we're quite a ways into the book
Into the book.
before Anna comes back into Abigail's
Yes.
life
Yes. And this is
and tells her story.
Yeah, and this is where Anna asks if the water she gives her is living water or
Okay.
dead water. And she says to Abigail, well, of course I know you wouldn't offer me dead water, but I actually would prefer dead water. And so this is the part in the story where Anna does tell Abigail that her parents, she believes it was her parents in the form of the saints.
Okay.
That
That asked her to
that
stay.
asked her to hang in there, not
And
to
she stayed for a couple
200
hundred,
years.
200 years
Mhm.
and got that library set up. And
now she is so that is their bonding time that they
okay,
have in the book
but Abby notices that
with the
she's
gray.
got gray in
She's
her
got a
hair
gray
and
streak,
she got some wrinkles.
much like mine. I got one of
Yeah,
those
so
too.
too
Those
bad you don't have some
gray
Me too.
streak. See, I'm not
Yeah.
drinking. I'm drinking dead water. I
Yeah,
have a
I'm
gray
okay with
streak.
that.
So, yeah, she notices in Anna's red hair that she's got
Yeah.
her gray streak.
And then she invites her to stay with the family
After
and
this,
to live her life out, surrounded by
yes.
Abigail's family,
But-
which is really her family because they're
But
cousins.
we have some changes of,
Yeah.
and we're not going to talk about that. But you will have to read the book. To
So
see
now
what
we're
happens
going to go
Anna.
back to when she gets back up front and she
Mhm.
starts talking again.
Yes. So now the
Okay.
break is over,
Okay.
and Hiram says, "Please continue." Anna walked back up to the podium and began to talk again. This is where she's talking. For 52 days, the resurrected wandered the streets and surrounded areas in the semi-darkness.
Okay, so I just want people to picture this. Her and Quintus were sitting in the cemetery watching these ghosts or people or whatever they were. They didn't look
Raising
like
from the
normal
dead, apparitions.
Yeah, she didn't know what it was. And now they're telling us that these people are wandering
Walking around. Yeah. This is
Is
in
it the zombie apocalypse?
no, this is the resurrection spoken of in Matthew. Many people read right over that when they read their Bible that the graves were opened and people resurrected out of the graves, and they walked around for a good while before they ascended with Christ. And there was actually interviews done. I know that Simeon's sons were two that were interviewed by Gamaliel and Nicodemus, I believe. And they did an interview of
So that's not in the canon.
That's not in the canon.
Where did you find that?
That would be the Book of Nicodemus.
Okay, Book of Nicodemus. Okay,
And
so
that's
that's what they call an extra biblical
biblical text.
fills in a lot of the blanks about
Yeah.
what this was. This
the
is
Gospel of
to me
Nicodemus.
fascinating.
So this is a little bit more a focus of what that might have looked like for an average citizen at that
Yeah,
time.
I mean we have to use our imaginations, and this is a fiction book because
It is.
they destroyed as much as they possibly could of our real history.
Yeah, and then they've kept obscured from us. It's not that it's hidden. You guys can find these books, but they're not the religious churches do not advertise, nor do they want you reading outside the canon. They you guys I'm sure had experiences. It's dangerous. Don't read outside the canon. But then they'll put forth all kinds of
Well, I personally think those books should be burnt.
the pastor
Just kidding.
Their testimonies are their interpretations, their modern interpretations of scripture, but don't read something from 1,000 years ago by a first-hand account of what might have happened. That's dangerous.
For me, the canon is Cliff's Notes.
It's
and I read the extra biblical text so that I can fill in the blanks there. I mean, so many things that I could not understand until I read these other texts, and I went, "Wow!" So that is why Abraham was going to sacrifice his son.
Right.
That was
And I
what was
think
going on there. Oh
people
my
are
gosh.
gonna fill in the gaps one way or the other. And the way
Yeah.
modern do that, we go to our pastors and we have our pastors try to fill in the gaps, and they make stuff up.
Yeah.
They just plain make it up.
Well, you know, it's just their opinion about
It's
what
their
happened. But
opinion. And
it's
then
better to find these writings,
of
and you know, and
accounts.
you're not obligated if you read something outside of
And
the
you don't think
canon. If you don't, if you pray about it and you
it
go,
doesn't
well,
feel right.
this don't seem right, then don't believe it.
I shelf it. I have a thing that I call shelving. If I don't understand something, or if it doesn't seem right, or I don't know what to do with it, maybe it's not necessarily sitting right, but I just don't, it doesn't make sense to me. I call it a shelf. I'm going to put it on a shelf.
Yeah.
And if I come across something later that maybe puts the
Well, I mean,
pieces back together.
I had that with the Book of Enoch, because when it
Yeah.
comes to talking about the astronomy of the,
Mhm.
you know, he's talking about the gates, the sun going through a gate. What does that mean? I didn't understand any of that. Now, once I realized the biblical cosmology, then it started to make sense. Now, I just noticed a few days ago that the sun went through a gate.
Mm.
Yeah. And it wasn't, you know, we think we lose a couple minutes of daylight a day. No,
Yeah.
it goes through a gate. And you can tell. You can tell when you get up in the morning that the daylight has changed.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
you can't get that understanding until you get out of our indoctrination with globe earth
You
and
have to
that
just
kind of
open
stuff.
your mind up
Mhm.
to these other texts and pray about it, and trust that the relationship that you have with Yahuwah is going to, if there's something wrong there, it's going to get pointed out to you.
Yeah.
And then you can avoid it. But in the meantime, educate yourself.
Yes.
Instead of just standing there in ignorance going, oh, it's dangerous. Oh, no.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's they instill fear into us to keep us ignorant.
Yeah.
And to keep us vulnerable, so that the gaps that are there in the compiled scriptures, they get to fill them in for you.
Right.
And tell you what you should be believing, so that they put your thinking in a box that they can control you.
Yes.
And that is what the modern day church does. And that is what we need to really be breaking out of, and what the scriptures say, depending on the Holy Spirit to guide and teach us
Well,
what we
it's
need to
hard to
learn.
do because when we were young, not all of us, but many of us, sat in churches
Yes.
and were completely brainwashed because
Told
you
what
trust the
to
guy
interpret.
that's in the robe up
Mhm.
there or whatever the collar. You trust, you know, it's just like
Yeah.
you trust your
Yeah.
teachers. You know, and your teachers are telling you that the earth is a globe.
Yeah. And so
Okay,
they
so
interpret the text. They
yeah,
interpret in the
exactly.
translation, and that, I think that is why our scriptures are compiled in the way that it is to leave open spaces that they can fill in for the people. So that's why it's like they tout the holy word, and then they pound the Bible, and you read the Bible, and the Bible defines the holy word is Jesus. It's Yahushua. The holy word is not the scriptures. The scriptures are good, it says, good for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training. All those things, yes. But it is not the holy word. The holy word is Jesus. So anyway, getting off that bandwagon.
Okay, now here we
We're
go.
gonna come back. We're gonna roll it back.
To Anna here,
We're gonna go back to Anna. But that is the point, and that is why we're hoping that you, as the reader, will find these concepts interesting and go and seek for yourself some of these texts and some of these information, and dive in a little deeper and see what they say. So that's where that came from. I believe it was the Gospel.
In
of
the meantime,
Nicodemus.
enjoy reading.
Yeah. So this is the tombs opening up, and yes, it is a blurb in canon. I'm going to reread this.
Okay.
For 50 days, the resurrected wandered the streets and surrounding areas in the semi-darkness. The sun was so dim that plants began to die. Still, the resurrected continued their eerie roving among the terrified populace. As the days wore on, the resurrection of Jesus could not be denied. No matter how they tried to cover it up, Quintus personally knew some of the soldiers who guarded the tomb of Jesus. They were paid to keep their mouths shut about what really happened. First-hand witnesses were locked up in a cell with an official seal. I believe Joseph of Arimathea was one of those that was locked up. That's another from one of those texts. Yet, somehow, they disappeared by the next morning, the seal untouched. Anna paused to rub the pain in her arthritic fingers. I knew Roman officials who joined the ranks of believers. Pontius Pilate was one of those. He and his wife Claudia would eventually be martyred for it. Copies of many, many covert letters between him and Herod are now filed in our libraries. In the early years, my library alone transcribed hundreds of first-hand testimonies about the death and resurrection of the Christ. Your Abby and I have worked very hard to see that these documents are safely stored so everyone can see them as the true history of what took place. We are under no illusion that in 1,000 years after the millennial reign is over, they will still be available. Plans are even now being formulated to hide our libraries and their contents in an attempt to preserve the knowledge. Anna looked at Abby, sitting a few rows down. I know, Abby, I am not supposed to talk about that, and I would never reveal details, but it stands to reason that there will be those after the millennial reign who will try to hide and distort the truth of his glorious death and resurrection and coming. There are still those of us here who saw him in the sky and witnessed him take control of his righteous government. It was a sight to see. He put a fast stop to all war. He quickly guided us to clean up the mess and establish this wonderful kingdom ruled by the kings of kings and the King of Kings and the elect, which you know as the resurrected saints were as the resurrected saints. We realize we have only 1,000 years until our enemy, that old serpent, who is now bound in the abyss, must be set free. Now I am going back to the the part of the story I was telling you before I veered off into the ditch. Pontius Pilate, governor of Judea, was the official who eventually allowed the execution. Pressured by Herod, Archelaus, Philip, Annas, and Caiaphas, he publicly washed his hands of the martyr and stood aside. Almost as soon as our Savior breathed his last breath, Pilate fell to his knees and repented. He knew that for sure that at that moment that Jesus was truly the Son of the Most High God. We have
got goosebumps.
We have in our libraries his letters to Herod and witness accounts of his own crucifixion and his wife's martyrdom. He expressed his happiness to die for his Savior to many people and on many occasions. Anna's eyes drifted back to the front row and locked once again to injustice. After a moment, she began her conclusion. In addition to the Roman officials, many of the Roman soldiers converted to the true faith at that time. My husband Quintus and his brother Longinus were two such men. They had the advantage of hailing from Thrace, an ancient people whose writings and lore told of the very events in which they were now embroiled. Of course, they, like many others, did not recognize the prophecies being fulfilled before their eyes until it was too late to prevent his death. This is the way of our God's plans. It had to happen as it did, because without his sacrifice, none of us would have the gift of eternal life with him. But then you already know these things. The Most High God has made perfect all imperfection. My cousin and friend Abigail has invited me to sojourn with all of you for a time, and I am very happy to accept. As long as I am here, any of you may come to me with questions. Thank you for your respect and attention. Anna said. End of chapter 20.
Wow.
So there is a lot there.
Yeah.
And
Well, Anna's a very interesting character.
yes. And we fit in a little bit of those texts because there's another one that you may be interested in reading about Longinus.
Yeah.
We made Anna, her husband, being the brother of Longinus, who is he's the real soldier, centurion soldier, who was in charge of making sure that the crucifixion of Jesus Christ went through, that it was, you know, complete, and he did his
So
job.
now we've got writings about Longinus,
Longinus,
and
yes.
if somebody wanted to go and read that story about him, where would you find that?
The only place you're going to find that if you go on YouTube and you put in the Chronicles of the Thracian Chronicles of Longinus. That's Longinus. That is how you spell his name. You will find a reading by Zen Garcia on YouTube. He is the one that is directly in contact in the Bulgarian area in getting that text translated into English. I do not believe it is yet available.
No, I don't think it is.
For
But
us.
he's done a lot of readings out of that,
yes.
and you can listen to these.
You can listen to the readings, and I believe there might be 8 of them. But the Thracian Chronicle readings by Zen Garcia, there's 3. There's the Thracian Chronicle of Longinus. There's the one of Orpheus, I think, is one, and the other one. Trying to remember what the other one
I
is
don't
called.
know.
You'll have to go on Sacred Word Publishing to probably find that.
Well, just go to Zen Garcia on YouTube, and then go to his playlist. You'll probably see it right in there.
Yeah.
The Thracian Chronicles, which are,
there's
right now
3. There's Adam and Eve. So there's an account of Adam and Eve.
But has been, what's his face? Quintus has been made up.
Yes, Quintus is a made up character
to be Longinus' brother,
so that we could put that little tidbit in the book.
So I mean, as you're reading, if you're familiar with extra biblical texts, you're going to know some of this stuff, and other things are just pure fiction.
Yeah, other things are pure fiction, but that is a real a truth that we put in there to whet the appetite for extra biblical content that you guys can explore on your own. So there are very many truths within the fiction story that are there.
It's based on a true story.
Yes.
That's the way
that is one of my favorite stories, is the story of Longinus, because he was the one in the Bible that's pierced the side of Jesus, and when the blood and water flowed on his eye, he was blind in that eye, and he came to see with the blood that got, and that is when he knew that Jesus was the fulfillment of what his parents taught, because in Thrace at that time they knew of the promised Messiah, and he realized that he was responsible for killing the promised Messiah that his peoples knew about, and he carried that.
So there were quite a few people that repented immediately after Christ died, because they realized
he was the fulfillment of the ancient prophecy of the coming of the 5,500 years.
And we just killed an innocent man.
A
good and innocent man. We just killed him. Yep.
And at that time, that prophecy was very widespread, even among the Gentiles. They knew the prophecy of the 5,500 years from Adam to the Messiah that would redeem the earth. That's a prophecy that is not very widely known today, and has been covered up. But back then, that is why the 3 wise men that you have in the story, that's why they knew to come from a far distance. They were looking for the fulfillment of the prophecy, and the time it was fulfilled. And that is that prophecy.
They didn't know exactly the date, just like none of us do. That's not for human beings to know, but they knew they were close.
They knew they were
In fact, I've even read where they left long before Christ was born, because it was a long journey.
It was. And they knew that the timing, the star alignments were right, the timing, and the accounts were better kept. They did have the accounts back then of the time frame. our current collection of our Bible is it uses a Masoretic, and there have been some messes with the time scale.
Well, and then there are people that say that the order in which the books are
not in order.
Yeah, they jumbled that up to make it even more confusing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? If everything came easy,
yeah,
it doesn't come easy.
No,
you have to study. You have to look into it. You have to have a sincere heart that, hey, I want to find out about this.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know.
Yeah. Well, and I find it curious that when you actually put the 1500 years back into the time before Christ, it aligns with other documents of other cultures where the Bible in its current state doesn't align. It doesn't align because it's been messed with. The time frame has been messed with. It's 4004 years when it should be closer to that 5500 years. And so you will find that in your research when you go to do that the you're going to find that the
So even though this book right here is fiction, okay, a lot of research went into that. Now, years ago when I was listening to Zen and when I was reading extra biblical text, I didn't know I was researching for a book.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't know about the little season then. Yeah. I was still waiting for Christ to come back, for the second coming of Christ, where, my gosh, he's already come.
And and actually in the book of the bee, it makes it clear that that is why they changed the time. To make so that they can put forward today the false dichotomy of Jesus hasn't returned yet.
Well, I mean, that makes a lot of people get really down because how long have they waited? They waited. He said he was coming quickly. Well, quickly is not 2,000 years, like they say. So, so we would want you to
But that is
read
Anna's
the book,
story.
enjoy the book, tune in to the next one. Where what character do you think we'll do next?
I don't know. I wonder if
I think that's still going to be backwards when they say
Is it going to be backwards?
Use a mirror. Hold a mirror up. I don't know why it's backwards.
We are not very good at this technological stuff.
We're just darn lucky we're on here. That's the bottom line.
And if you think we're goofy and funny,
and you can pray for us that we can get better at this.
We did a recording. We did a live, and it got erased.
Man, we did a live, and I'm pretty sure it disappeared from the world, and I'm pretty sure that I trashed it.
That's okay.
Yeah, when I was trashing other things, I'm pretty sure that I trashed it because we have so many false starts.
Yeah, we do.
So when I look at that thing, I've got all these documents in there, and I thought I saw something that was 50 seconds, and I went flashing in my mind, and I think it was 50 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think I threw it away. So sorry, guys, that was about 2 weeks ago. So Meredith just happened to plan a trip back here, so we decided to do it again. But we're going to keep trying to do live as soon as. Now, once in a while, we'll have a week where neither one of us can figure out a time to do the live. And part of the problem is that we know it's going to take time.
The other thing is your internet. Sometimes she can't connect.
No. What it is the internet on my phone. And the last time when we were successful is my husband switched. He switched the phone that I had to go live together on. He switched that to the home Wi-Fi.
Oh.
And all of a sudden our connection problems were gone. So it has to do with my phone.
It has to do.
Okay, yeah.
So and unfortunately, YouTube doesn't let you do live together unless you use a phone.
Not right now, but eventually we're going to get a program to do that. We're going to sign up for Streamwood or something. I don't know.
We just don't. We're just regular gals.
Yeah, we don't know what's going on.
We don't know what we're doing. We are definitely not planned agents in any way.
All we know is that we love the Most High God.
We do.
And we felt compelled to put the information that we knew into a fiction book.
So that the average person can actually get into the story. Average people just, and actually get something of value, something of truth, without them even realizing it, without them even
And then to add to the world a fiction novel that's not filthy
It's not filthy.
or violent. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, there's not much out there
And
in
has
fiction.
lots of spiritual truths in it.
Yeah.
This is a very spiritually rich for life living. And really in this time of deception, this is what we need. We need a redirecting of our focus on spiritual things instead of the physical material world that today's society is so focused on.
Well,
The
I mean, we're so
material.
used to being entertained, and then
Yeah.
you're letting somebody else feed your mind. Or when you read, you're actually feeding your own mind. You know, you're participating in that and using your own imagination. So that's why we like to have you join us in,
Yes.
you know. So anyway, all right.
That
Well,
was our focus on Anna.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't know. We will revisit and talk and pray about what our next character and
Yeah,
what we should be
we want to
reading
do a series of characters.
of
So
characters and
yeah,
readings from the book and do a character focus in what whatever's going on and then talk about it like
I
this.
think Anna's one of the most.
Anna is one of the most
Yeah, she
interesting,
is
and I think
because
that's why we
she
started
came
with
out of
her.
that where I'm going to give him a hint. She didn't drink the living water, and then she found a reason after that.
You giving it away.
No, I'm not. I'm just going to give it
Okay.
away in a broad way that
See,
she ended up living to the end of the millennium,
she ended up
and her
deciding
gray hair
to-
turned red again.
Yes.
Yeah, she had
You
fiery
giving it
red
away.
hair. Yeah, so she came out of that.
Right, you're not giving any more.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right.
They have to read the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Okay, so we'll until next time. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye. You know how to stop?
There.